Well, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I put up a poll and you guys decided that you want to dive back into the topic of cryptids. So I couldn't decide what I wanted to do, so here's something a little bit different. Here are 7 species that used to be cryptids. First we start off with cryptozoologists. They, in fact, study cryptids, which are creatures whose existence cannot yet be entirely proven. Stuff like Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, the Jersey Devil, El Chupacabra, the Mothman. These are just a few that have been studied worldwide and are popularly regarded as cryptids. There are a few species that we know commonplace that weren't so common. So, the first creature, the Komodo Dragon. And it is said until 1910, stories of a giant lizard on the islands of Komodo in Indonesia were laughed at by the respectable scientists. However, when Lieutenant Stan van Hansbroek caught and killed one, things changed. Explorer W. Douglas Burden wasn't happy with just a dead specimen and decided to travel to the island to capture one alive. He returned to New York City with a few dead specimens and not one but 2 live Komodo dragons. The dragons are put on display in the Bronx Zoo and inspired Marion C. Cooper to write the 1933 classic King Kong. Now, if you don't know what a Komodo dragon is, it's a giant monitor lizard that can be up to 10 feet long, with its tail being half of its length, ranging from about 150 to 300 pounds. This thing can run approximately 12 miles an hour, and it is venomous. Although their hunting tactics, they won't necessarily bite you and hold on to you. They will bite you and then stalk you for a couple days until you succumb to the venom, and then they will eat you, potentially alive, maybe not. Who knows? Number 2. Platypus. If you weren't familiar with a platypus and you looked at a picture of one, it would be easy to believe that it was photoshopped. A duck, an otter, and a beaver all put together. Naturalists, scientists, and most Europeans in the 18th century didn't believe such a creature could exist. The second governor of New South Wales, Captain John Hunter, sent a pelt and a sketch of the platypus to the scientists of the European community in 1798, shortly after one was discovered. Zoologist, autonomist, entomologist, and physician Robert Knox, he must have had a lot of free time, convinced it was a hoax and that the pelt was made by an Asian taxidermist. He even convinced botanist and zoologist George Shaw, who at the time believed the platypus could be real, but had his doubts, to take scissors to the belt and find a stitch. Several years later, after many expeditions, the platypus was proven to be real. Now I can understand their skepticism. It is a mammal, it lays eggs, it has a duck bill, and this too is venomous. It's a weird little creature. Next, the Okapi, also known as the forest giraffe. The Okapi is a blend of the zebra, donkey, deer, and antelope, yet its closest genetic link is giraffes. Europeans in the 18th and 19th century called this animal the African unicorn. Of course, Africans knew that Okapi existed since the animal inhabits the Ituri forest in Central Africa. Because okapis are rarely seen and are extremely hard to find, they were classified as a cryptid for many years. In 1901, Sir Harry Johnston, which is an unfortunate name, found an okapi skeleton in a skin and sent it to the British Museum, where it is classified as a new species. Number 4. It is the gorilla, silverback specifically. I bet you didn't expect to see a gorilla on this list. In fact, most European explorers thought the gorillas were monster-like. The first attributed sighting of the gorilla by a non-African was made in the 5th century BC by Greek explorer Hanno. Most scientists believe Hanno was describing either chimpanzees or baboons from his account. However, his interpretation of the creatures that he saw was gorillae. Another explorer, Andrew Battelle recounted seeing human-like monsters visit his campfire every morning after he left for the day. Of course, he had to mention that they didn't know how to put more wood on the fire to keep it going. Yet, gorillas remained cryptids until 1847, when Thomas Savage found gorilla bones in Liberia. He, alongside Harvard entomologist Jeffrey Wim, wrote a formal description of the new species, calling it gorilla gorilla. A decade later, anthropologist Paul de Chaloux hunted live gorillas in order to obtain species to analyze. One gorilla species, the mountain gorilla, stayed a cryptid until 1902, when German Captain Robert von Bergin first identified one. Number 5. The giant squid. Many people still consider the giant squid to be a cryptid. Similar to most cryptids, which tend to live in habitats that are difficult for humans to find, giant squids live in the deep ocean. The first image of the giant squid was taken in 2004 by researchers in Japan, who no doubtedly wanted to eat it. And in 2006, scientists from Japan's National Science Museum caught a live 24-foot female giant squid. Every few months, there's another news report of a dead giant squid washing ashore. Even though some people consider the giant squid a hoax, the scientific evidence says otherwise. Number 6. The Bottego. It is one of the ancestral spirits of the Moaning people in western Papua New Guinea. Its ties to western Papua New Guinea mythology made the Bottego a cryptid for decades. It wasn't until the 1980s that Tim Flannery, an Australian scientist, took the first picture of the Bottego. Mr. Flannery identified the animal as a tree-dwelling marsupial that looked like a tiny man. It has black and white fur and even walks around on 2 legs. Unfortunately, the Bottego is on the endangered species list. Number 7, and last, the kangaroo. It is hard to believe that kangaroos were once cryptids. The first description of a kangaroo was made by Amerigo Vespucci in 1499 when he was traveling along the coast of Australia. He described it as a monstrous beast with the head of a fox and the hands of a man, the tail of a monkey, and the bag that is used to carry its young. In 1629, Francisco Pellicert captured a kangaroo, but it died on his voyage. It wasn't until Sir Joseph Banks rediscovered the kangaroo on Captain Cook's voyage in 1770 that the kangaroo changed from an enjoyable myth to an actual species. Now, the field of cryptozoology shows us that there are a lot of animals on our planet that we don't understand. But just because we don't understand something doesn't mean it can't exist. Earth is a beautiful planet filled with all kinds of weird, creepy cryptids lurking where we least expect. There's still hope for the cryptids, like Bigfoot, the Jersey Devil, the Chupacabra. May we live to one day see their presence proven. Now, thanks for joining me on another video. I'll probably put up another post. If there's a specific cryptid you want me to tackle first, why don't you go ahead and leave it in the comments. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Or don't. It's okay. And I will talk to you nerds later.